Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me today for my next installment of Facebook Live and Instagram Live, if you will. And today I'll be talking a bit about compassion and acceptance. That's the plan anyway. We'll see when we get there. It's funny because, I like to advertise for these the evening before, or 12 or 14 hours before, or whatever. And at that time I have a topic in my mind. Oh yeah, it might be good to talk about that. But then as the talk time approaches, I have some different ideas. But anyway, I think today we'll discuss for sure compassion and acceptance, probably as well. Yeah. So, the reason why I'm doing the Facebook Lives, I mentioned this last time I was here on Friday, so you may want to fast forward this point if you like. But really, I am offering Facebook Live sessions throughout the month of August and into September, probably throughout September, because I'm facilitating an online meditation program called Abiding in Kindness, Compassion, Joy, and Equanimity. And this is a 12-week online meditation immersive program. It runs from October 1st to December 21st. So I'm just going to use the next couple of minutes to speak about the online program, and then we'll get into a guided meditation and then a talk. Oops, go. Okay. So the retreat that I'm offering is offered in 2 sections to cater to different time zones and needs. And we meet twice a week. Each section meets twice a week. Section A will meet on Tuesdays and Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. East Coast time. Section B meets on Tuesdays and Saturday evenings from 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. East Coast Standard Time. Now there is a daylight savings adjustment there the first week of November, so the clocks will move for the retreat participants, but not for me. So factor that in, whether your clock will go ahead an hour or behind an hour, like that. So again, the name of the course, Abiding in Kindness, Compassion, Equanimity, and Joy, or Joy and Equanimity. These are known as the 4 abodes of the heart, or the Brahma Viharas, in the Buddhist tradition. So we'll spend roughly 3 weeks on each of those qualities throughout the 12 weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very rich. If you want to find out more about the program, please do go visit my website, www.suchsweetthunder.org, and you can find out all about the program there. So let's do a little bit of meditating. This meditation can be done with your eyes open or closed, however you feel comfortable. There are many traditions that meditate with eyes open, particularly in the Tibetan traditions, but other also Zen as well, both of which I've trained quite deeply in. But the earlier schools of Buddhism and Hinduism also, they practice meditation with their eyes closed. I've done both and trained in both, and I find benefit to both. So really, however you're most comfortable. And if you'd like to take a wakeful, alert posture, that could be helpful, particularly if you think you might fall asleep. But if you're not in danger of falling asleep, then really any posture will do, and really just trying to be as comfortable and relaxed as you can be while staying awake and alert. And we'll do this for only maybe 7 minutes or so. So I'm not sure what the theme of this practice will be. It'll be an arriving, and I'm sure I'll drop some compassion in there as well. So enjoy the practice. So the invitation here is just to arrive into this present moment. And there are many ways of arriving and connecting to the present moment. And for this practice, let's start by noticing the breath and how the breath feels, the in-breath and out-breath. We don't need to breathe in any particular way or try to change the breath. Simply noticing the breath as the breath moves in and out. And so we might notice the abdomen rising and falling with each breath. We might notice how the rib cage expands on the in-breath and contracts on the out-breath. The shoulders rising and falling with each breath. We might notice how the back moves out on the in-breath and in on the out-breath. While we're noticing the breath, we might notice how the breath feels as it enters the nose and leaves the nose. There might be a dry or a cool sensation there. So resting. And right away we can notice this quality of acceptance, accepting the sensations of the breath. Resting in this open, receptive awareness, the sensations simply appear. You don't have to go looking for the sensations or try to control them in any way. Simply observing, breathing in and breathing out. And the mind might wander here and there while we're resting with the breath, and that's very normal. We might smile and say, "Ah, the mind has wandered." Labeling that thinking, and gently returning back to the present moment. Again, a practice of acceptance. The mind has wandered here. There's no problem with the wandering mind. We simply recognize and return. Recognize and return. And so we can simply rest, exploring the breath, perhaps seeing if we can stay with the entire breath cycle. And starting at the very beginning of the in-breath and noticing all of the sensations of the in-breath to the pause, the beginning of the out-breath, noticing all of the sensations of the out-breath, as much as feels accessible. Breathing in and breathing out. And perhaps we can offer a little bit of a note on the beginning of the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath. So if you'd like, just trying this as an experiment. Breathing in, calm. Breathing out, smile. Breathing in, calm. Breathing out, smile. Breathing in, calm. Breathing out, smile. And again, if the mind is wandering, that's an opportunity. Acceptance. Yeah, this is how it is right now. Just gently returning back. Breathing in, calm. Breathing out, smile. And so in a few moments' time then, we'll begin to shift away from this brief arriving practice and back into a conversational space. And I'll cue that by ringing the bell 3 times. So thank you all for joining me in that guided meditation. I hope that was helpful and pleasant for you all. And I think I said this last time on Friday too, but it's for me so tempting to just meditate here for the next half an hour. But yeah, I do have some things I'd like to offer around compassion and acceptance. So yeah. So first things first, I do want to acknowledge that I am beaming in live on Instagram through a camera over here and then my computer in front of me. So if you see me kind of shifting around with my eyes or my head, I'm trying to address 2 audiences, virtual audiences at the same time. And I'd like to go ahead and offer a definition of compassion. And this, the Latin root compati, it means to suffer with, to suffer with. And, really the practice of compassion, or the practice of holding compassionate space, is the practice of holding space for the suffering, the struggles, the discontent of others, and ourself. It's very easy when we practice compassion to forget about self-compassion, and so we want to really emphasize the importance of that, holding our own struggles in that open space, that healing space of compassion. And one of the ways compassion is often spoken about in the Buddhist tradition that I find extremely helpful So that compassion is the heart that trembles in the face of suffering, the heart that quivers in the face of discontent. And right now, if you're feeling some struggle in your own life, or some discontent, or some challenges, when you go into that experience, just at the surface even, and look, you might notice there's a trembling there. And very often that's where we stop. We feel that tremble and it's scary. It's like, and then the defense walls come up. So that's kind of an intimation of where I'd like to go with the talk. Getting a little ahead of myself here, but I did want to open the talk with a reading of a 1980s rock song from Pink Floyd that I love. And, I was thinking about it when I was putting the talk together, how much of a product of 70s and 80s rock and jazz too, actually, that my worldview is, shaped by. It's really extraordinary. And there's so many beautiful songs about peace and love and compassion and joy. And my theory is that we keep the humanity, or artists, musicians, we keep writing songs or poems to try to put words into the ineffable. And the songwriter writes the song, and it's so close to that feeling. The poetry lands in such a way that it really can bring up the feeling of compassion, or the feeling of kindness, the feeling of joy. But it's not there yet, because words can never capture the feeling, right? So we kind of get into this, we keep trying, right? We keep trying to get that song just right, and it sells lots of recordings and gets on the radio, and lots of people love it, and then it lasts for 10 or 15 years, and then there's another song that comes up, that really it does such a great job at expressing it, but it's not expressible in words. It's not expressible in words. Nevertheless, I'm going to try. And so here are the lyrics. I'll try not to sing it, because goodness knows that would turn away everyone mostly. But I will read the song lyrics to On the Turning Away from Pink Floyd. On the turning away, from the pale and downtrodden, and the words they say which we won't understand. Don't accept that what's happening is just a case of others suffering, or you'll find that you're joining in the turning away. It's a sin that somehow light is changing to shadow, and casting its shroud over all we have known. Unaware how the ranks have grown, driven on by this heart of stone, we could find that we're all alone in the dream of the proud. On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, such beautiful imagery there. On the wings of the night, as the daytime is stirring, where the speechless unite in a silent accord. Using words you will find are strange, mesmerized as they light the flame. We feel the new winds of change on the wings of the night. No more turning away from the weak and the weary, No more turning away from this coldness inside. There's just a world that we all must share. It's not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream that there'll be no more turning away? Just that last stanza. No more turning away from the weak and the weary. No more turning away from this coldness inside. There's just a world that we all must share. It's not enough just to stand and stare. Is it only a dream that there'll be no more turning away? Wow. And I think, for me, the question that comes after reading, and you have to put up with the 80s rhyme parameter and things like that. And it's a bit much, but, to really get into that, how? How do we not turn away? How do we not, make that move to defend ourselves from the endless barrage of challenge that comes through our news medias and so forth? How do we not turn away from the homeless on the street? How do we not turn away from our own struggle as our heart gets colder? How do we not allow that freeze? How do we remain open and soft and warm in the face of struggle? So these are the questions that I really actually make my life's work. And certainly the questions we will be looking at the 12-week course that I had mentioned earlier. These are the questions that compassion invites us to explore. And, I mentioned last time, and on the, there's also a short video, about a 20-minute video introducing the course, and I spoke a bit about compassion there as well. And there are these really wonderful phrases of compassion that are traditionally used in both the early traditions, the later traditions as well. And that's a beautiful practice, and it's something that I do, that I've been doing for many, many years, over 20 years now. I'll just go through the phrases. May I feel safe. May I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May I be free from disturbance and harm. And we also wish these for others too. May you be free from disturbance and harm. May we, let's use we here, may we accept things just as they are. May we experience the world accepting us just as we are. That one's so beautiful, so beautiful. What would it be like, just as a thought experiment here, what would it be like if we lived in a world where everyone accepted everyone just as they were? And so for me, as I posed that question, immediately I felt that resistance come up. The doubt, oh, that'll never happen. The clenching of the heart, the contraction in the abdomen, a bit of sadness. And that's fine, that's normal. Those resistances are there to protect us, to keep us safe. And then we might just gently invite that assistance, invite that resistance to one side and say, okay, thank you for keeping me safe. I don't need you right now, but thank you. Thank you. And then we move back into that experiment. What would it be like for the world to accept everyone just as they were, just as they are? And the last phrase then, may I serve the present moment. May I serve the present moment. That's speaking to compassionate action. We move forward to alleviate the struggles of others, of ourselves. And this is a beautiful practice, and those are the phrases. If you want to work on those, you can meditate on just one phrase or the whole set of phrases. You can offer them just to yourself, to others, to the world. And this can be a really helpful way of uncovering the compassion that's inherent in the human heart. Compassion is inherent to the human heart. It's not something we have to cultivate or grow or search out somewhere else. Right? But it's just the defense mechanisms and the messages that we're given by our culture, our society, our upbringing. We take in those messages, whatever they are, and often those become shields for our hearts so that we can't have access to the struggles, not fully, the struggles, the challenges, the pain of our life. And that's normal, right? It's right that we're wired that way. If we weren't wired to avoid discomfort, we wouldn't have lived as a species, right? So evolutionary speaking, it makes sense that we need to protect ourselves against discomfort. And so compassionate practice is the practice of, finding that balance. How much of this can I feel now in this moment? How open can I be? And why am I closing down? Why am I turning away? And so the meditations on compassion can be very, very helpful. And here I'd like to offer or speak to an informal practice. Informal practices are mindfulness or compassionate practices that we do when we're not meditating, when we're just about our day-to-day experience. And this is a practice that was put forth by Roshi Bernie Glassman from the Zen Peacekeepers movement. And I had the privilege and pleasure to study with Roshi Fleetmall, who's from that same lineage. Kind of indirectly with him, it was his organization. I did do some work with him on a few retreats, but he spoke very eloquently to this practice as well of bearing witness, compassionate, not knowing, bearing witness, and compassionate action. It's a 3-step process, if you will. And you can try this practice. I like to do this with the news. Like I'll turn on the news, or for me, I like to read the news. I find watching the news very invasive. But I like to read the news. And so before I open the app on my phone to read the news that I'm about to take in, I'll just go into this brief practice of, okay, let me let go of any ideas of what I think should and shouldn't be in the world, what I think should be happening and what shouldn't be happening. Let me just relinquish those for a minute. And you might take a humorous approach to this. Like, what would the world really look like if everything was according to my design? Be probably a worse world than we're in now. So, that's the extreme, one side of the extreme, right? So we want to find that, our way back from there, that humor, and just letting go of what I think should and shouldn't be happening in Ukraine or the West Bank, what I should or shouldn't be, what I think should or shouldn't be happening in my own life, my personal life, my teaching. Just letting go of all of that. And then I'll open my eyes, and if I'm working with the news, then I'll bear witness to what I'm reading, showing up to what's there as fully as possible, not trying to defend myself from that suffering of the moment, right? Equally, not separating myself from the joys of life, right? It's as we nourish ourselves with joy, we have more capacity to take in the struggle. The more we take in the struggles, the more capacity we have to hold our joy. And so these two are intimately related, joy and struggle, joy and suffering. The more we nourish ourselves with laughter, with pleasure, good music, good friends, meditation, gratitude, the more space we have in our heart for to witness the struggles of others and to hold space for our own. No more turning away. No more turning away. And so we let go of what we think should be happening. And then we bear witness on what is happening. And from that place of not knowing and bearing witness, spontaneous compassionate action tends to arise. Now that compassionate action can look very similar to the actions you may have been doing before a practice like this, and that's fine. But you'll notice the intention behind the action is much different, much more pure, much more skilled. And so let's look at the turning away for a moment, right? Let's say we have, practiced letting go of what we think should and shouldn't be. By the way, that's so intimately connected to the serenity prayer, right? Letting go of what we think should be happening, right? Just being there with what is in that moment, whether we're reading it or seeing it or feeling it in our heart. Then there's no turning away. And then notice, if right now as I'm speaking, I'm bringing up a situation in my life and I notice the heart wanting to turn away. That's the edge. That's the edge. And if you can breathe into the heart. Ooh, yeah. You might say, ow, yeah, that's tough. Ooh. Just holding space for that moment, that delicateness, that tenderness. Ooh. And then we might recognize that it's not personal. That this is the human condition. But life contains struggle. And the more I can stay open and heartfelt and warm in my own difficulty, my own pain, the more space I have for the pain of others. No more turning away from the pale and downtrodden. It's just a world that we all must share. And so again, those resistances, as I mentioned in the guiding of the practice, those resistances are there to keep us safe. So if you notice the heart starting to close, the want to turn away, or the blame that comes up. Blame is so common here. They shouldn't have done that. I should have done this better. Why are they saying this? Why is that person doing this? To me, to them, to others, to the world. This blame isn't productive, except that it protects our own heart. So when we're ready, when we're noticing the blame, and when we feel ready, we might ask, if I wasn't blaming, then what would I feel? Because that quality of blame is a turning away. Right? If I wasn't blaming, then what would I be feeling? Anger, too, is a very common way of turning away. So mad. Why are they doing that? Don't they know if they do that, it's going to make the world a worse place? Whatever it is, the anger. If I wasn't feeling angry, then what would I be feeling? Ouch. Oof. And so we anchor again, we feel our feet on the floor, the hands, the weight of the body in the chair, the clothing on the skin. Breathing in. Oof. Yeah. Yeah. And so this practice of not knowing and bearing witness, it's it's worth exploring. I'll leave it at that. I don't know what else to say about it. I was just practicing with you all. I hope that came across. And that's one way of exploring that, just to tiptoe into a situation, whether it's something you're working with your own life, or you're wanting to. I like to explore this watching the news, and then I'll do that for a month or so, and then do it with my own experience, or maybe a week of watching the news, bearing witness, not knowing, and then bringing it to a more personal level like that. If you start to feel overwhelmed in a practice like that, as I was modeling there, taking some breaths, noticing the feet, the hands, the sensations of the body. The sensations of the body are always present moment, so that can help us get out of overwhelm. Or you might use a sound. That too can be very helpful. So this talk has gone on a little bit longer than I had anticipated. I do want to read a poem it's not a poem, a koan. Koan is a riddle, so to speak, and this is a gross oversimplification of koan practice, but I'm just going to read it and maybe offer something to it, and then we'll close. So this is from the Zen tradition, and it's speaking about the bodhisattva named Kuan Yin. I have some statues of Kuan Yin and wall tapestries, but I don't have anything handy. But anyway, Kuan Yin is generally a female figure. She's got 1,000 arms or hands, and inside the palm of the hand there's an eye. And the eye is said to be the eye, 1,000 of them, and in some traditions it's 10,000. Each eye is a different way of seeing the truth, right? So 10,000 ways of seeing the truth, which is really shorthand for saying there's an infinite ways of seeing the truth. Bodhisattva Kuan Yin is said to be the bodhisattva of compassion. A bodhisattva is generally somebody who's made the vow to spend their lifetime alleviating the struggles and sufferings of others. So this is an exchange between two monks, Da Wei and Yung Yuen. And Da Wei says to Yung Yuen, he says, why does the koan is, why does the Bodhisattva Kuan Yin have so many hands and eyes? So this is the question that Da Wei and Yung Yuen are looking at. Da Wei says, it's like reaching back for your pillow in the dark. It's like reaching back for your pillow in the dark. Yung Yuen says, I understand. Da Wei says, what do you understand? Yung Yuen says, the whole body is covered with hands and eyes. The whole body is covered with these hands and eyes that see the truth in different perspectives. Da Wei says, almost. That's pretty close. Almost. Yung Yuen says, then what do you say? And Da Wei says, there's nothing but hands and eyes. There is nothing but hands and eyes. And so with that, I'll ring the bell to close out our time. Thank you so much.